Joe Rogan endorses Donald Trump. I'm going to tell you why it's a big deal. Not that you need me to tell you why it's a big deal, but this is about the people that got Trump over the finish line.
But the Trump, who did you say? Oh, let me tell you, we have a new star. A star is born, Elon.
Welcome to Doug in Exile. I'm Doug TenNapel. This is where the happy patriots are.
Last night, the world witnessed the greatest political comeback in American history. Throughout this campaign, our boss, President Trump, has faced more adversity than any candidate to ever run for office. They tried to imprison him. They forced him to take a mugshot. They tried to remove his name off of the ballot. They forced him to sit in a dirty courthouse for 6 weeks. 2 people tried to kill him.
Our joy is not dependent on elections or the government. Our joy is rooted in God.
A last-minute endorsement from Joe Rogan. Rogan throwing his vote behind Trump days after the former president appeared on his wildly popular podcast.
She missed it a little bit here. It wasn't so much Joe Rogan. It was Elon Musk on Joe Rogan's podcast, not the president on the podcast. I mean, the president was on Joe Rogan's podcast, but Elon Musk went on and is the one that really got Joe Rogan serious enough to endorse Trump.
With Rogan crediting Elon Musk for convincing him, writing this on X, quote, "The great and powerful Elon Musk. If it wasn't for him, we'd be effed. He makes what I think is the most compelling case for Trump you'll hear. And I agree with him every step of the way." For the record, yes, that's an endorsement of Trump.
Now, the endorsement is a big deal. He has 20 million subscribers, but the video itself got like 42 million views, just so you know. That's about how many people watch the Super Bowl. It means if people were influenced by him to vote, it would be enough to win any election. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm saying it's culturally significant, but I think it's culturally significant because Joe Rogan is nonpartisan and he's a symbol in a way that's very important. We'll get to that.
Thank you, Joe. That's so nice. And he doesn't do that. He doesn't do that, so.
He doesn't do that. Joe Rogan is not the endorsee kind of go Republican, go for it guy. He's a ruggedly independent man. And so that's what the true symbol is. It's not so much that Joe Rogan is going to flip votes over on his side. It's he represents the forgotten man. And I want you to think about this. We'll get into the whole team of Vivek Ramaswamy and Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. This is not your dad's Republican Party. This isn't even my old Republican Party.
And just how vast that audience was, and that he really appreciated. He said it was an honor to get people to speak for him yesterday and to be endorsed like that. I'm paraphrasing him a bit, but he used the word honor in terms of this late-breaking, news.
I agree that this is a big deal, that Trump said that he was honored to be interviewed by him. And he's recognized him as a fellow professional, a fellow entertainer, but just using the word honor, I think he means because he's also a UFC fighter, that he is a common man.
It really is. I thought Joe Rogan wasn't going to endorse anybody. Kamala Harris had an opportunity here. She missed it.
That's the big news. He invited Kamala Harris on, said, "I'll interview you." Boy, did she know better. Not because he'd give her tough questions. Joe Rogan is not unfair or mean. He'd challenge her just like a normal human being would do. But we know that Kamala Harris can't perform in normal human situations. She needs a DEI favor. She needs media filters and covers and people giving her softball questions, or she looks like even worse than Kamala Harris.
I think the Joe Rogan endorsement means a lot. And look, does it move X number of votes? Who knows?
Like I said, that's not where the votes come from. I do believe it moves votes, but I believe it shows Trump's attraction. This is what's weird. I listen to Beltway Republicans all the time on podcasts every day, never Trumpers, just going, he's a terrible candidate. He's terrible. We're going to lose this thing because of him. What they don't know is his character is very attractive to certain types of people, just not Beltway Washington Republicans, not traditional Republicans, not even traditional conservatives. I think people see in him something that he uniquely brings to the presidency. And he shook it out of the culture. He shook it out, and all these people came out and came to him. People who never get involved in politics, just like Joe Rogan. That's where the Trump landslide comes from. It's that Trump attracted the non-voter and created them in a way that the Republican Party could not do.
However, I was thinking today, Joe Rogan is kind of the ultimate man of the people. And when you saw that shot of Donald Trump we just put up in Pittsburgh, you saw the men in hard hats behind him. These are people who presumably bucked their union leaders and said, I'm showing up, I'm a rank and file, I'm supporting Trump.
It's about the people that buck the system. Look, here's the cast of winners with Trump, Vance, Kennedy Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Vivek. There's Elon, and now we can put Joe Rogan in there. These are not conservative Christians. Maybe Vance is, but the rest of them, you got atheists, you got a Hindu, you got, a health nut, you got a billionaire, tech guy.
Sitting together tonight. You spent 2 weeks in Philadelphia and different parts of Pennsylvania campaigning. He sent the rocket up 2 weeks ago.
This is not like the normal people that a president hangs around with. And I am happy that there's JD Vance representing my, people a little more than the others. But what Trump is doing is he's attracting mutants to him. He's assembling the Avengers, and he has strength because they're so, look, you want to talk about diverse? That's diversity. It's not just diversity of male, female, or sex, or race. It's diversity of thought. These people, they're not like each other. And so Trump is just blast that out across all of America. All of the independent thinkers, the different kind of people that are coming in, just like these mutants. That, I think, explains Trump's true appeal and what makes him rare. No one else could have done this.
Joe Rogan has the #1 podcast in the world for a reason. People like hearing what he says. He's authentic. He's real. He's a man of the people. And I think that means a lot.
Trump attracts authentic people. That's another thing I think of when I hear these people speak. I think of Tulsi Gabbard as very authentic. When they talk, I just don't sense any BS.
Harry Enten at CNN had this interesting analysis that when you look at voters moving from Joe Biden to Donald Trump in the polls, there's one commonality that they have when you look at their profile, and it's they have a favorable view of Joe Rogan. I think a lot of these independent-minded, kind of centrist, who are subscribers to Curiosity, as you say, Emily, look at Joe Rogan, like him, and I think could be swayed.
And that's McEnany's getting it on that one. The independent-minded people, where Joe Rogan shares the Venn diagram with Trump, independent-minded people. They're not so programmed by culture.
President Trump last night didn't just defeat Kamala Harris. He defeated the big tech oligarchs who have tried to censor him, the weaponized system of justice against him, and he defeated the fake news media that has been lying about him and his supporters in this MAGA movement for years.
Or even by old school Republican ways. And I'm not even celebrating all of the things that we're ditching in the Republican Party. I'm afraid, I fear for some of them, but not as fearful as Kamala Harris, which isn't just a ditching of Republican principles. It's a rejection of American principles.
Right. Well, the Washington Post and other media outlets declined to endorse, not because there's any confusion about who they like, but because they realized they had been so histrionic, so ridiculous over the last several years, they've lost any influence. They're unable to control the conversation like they used to.
That's Molly Hemingway. And she makes a great point that, there's a lot of reluctance to the traditional people endorsing Kamala Harris. The newspapers bailed on her, and they don't even have any influence. They're telling people what to do. They've overplayed a weak hand. The biggest loser in this election is not Kamala Harris. It is mainstream media.
So you think about the Joe Rogan podcast. He had Donald Trump on for 3 hours. He had JD Vance on for 3 hours. These were really long-form opportunities to get to know the candidates, get to know their policies.
Right.
Compare that to 60 Minutes, which Donald Trump didn't even waste his time with because they have become so corrupt in how they present the news. And 60 Minutes is watched by a lot of people, but nowhere near as many as the 200 million podcast downloads that Joe Rogan gets a month.
Okay, so everyone says Trump isn't like a classic president. I'll give you one. He talked to Joe Rogan for 3 hours. Trump can talk for hours. The Lincoln-Douglas debates, Abraham Lincoln, they used to go back and forth, each side 20 minutes, each side 40 minutes, an hour. They went on and on, long form. That's very Trumpy. Trump, in that way, just because he doesn't fill in your traditional Republican ways doesn't mean that he's not presidential in a very old way. Long form debates and long form conversations between real men, that's very classic.
So we're in a completely different media environment.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Amen. Please kill the media. Destroy the media. Wipe it out forever. Don't bring it back. The independent media is the future.
What do you think, John?
Yeah, I actually find this particular election fascinating because of the cultural aspects are so unique. You've got Rogan versus Oprah, right? You've got establishment media against new media, right? Rogan, as you said, is the center of gravity. That's where media is right now. People have left mainstream media. They're walking away. Where are they going? They're going to Joe Rogan.
And they're going to Doug in Exile. That's the great Jonathan Turley. He used to be a never Trumper. He's coming around too. The Trump effect.
I feel like there's a bit of a cultural reset going on.
Good. Reset. Hit reset hard. I just turned my computer off. Turn your computer off. Hit it on the head. It's a do-over time for media.
You've got all of these celebrities that have lined up on one side. And you've got figures like Elon Musk and Joe Rogan on the other side. And what is it about them that resonates with the American people? And I think it's because of this cultural reset.
Another thing in common with Joe Rogan and Elon Musk is they're self-made men. They went and started a business. They start businesses and they do hard work. They're not little brainiac thinkers. They're doers. That's in common also with, I think, the people that are coming to Trump are the hardworking people, self-made people.
That it's not just anti-establishment, that people have begun to look to different quarters for leadership, and that includes media and leaders.
Yeah, I think it's that they can't be canceled.
Amen. Oh, that's another great thing about independence is we can't be canceled. Well, we can on certain platforms. We can get canceled 7 times.
Alongside Elon and Joe, you have also RFK Jr., you have Tulsi Gabbard, you have people that say, I refuse to be put in a box. Their common denominator is that they're independent thinkers, right? And that they collect interesting freedom of thought, unique individuals around them to help foster that information rather than getting their script from on high.
There's lots of great new things to find from this cast of Super Friends, the new Avengers. And I don't just mean like, many of them are pro-choice and stuff. I can find other things I love about them that I cannot find in Kamala and the Chuck Schumers and their team, Raphael Warnock and all those psychos. I find a lot in common with these people. I like many of their ideas.
And so no one expected him to go for Trump, and I think least of which was Trump. And I think he was honestly surprised and delighted by it.
So hats off to Joe Rogan. Thank you, buddy, for finally coming around. I knew you had a brain rolling around in there somewhere. I'm Doug in Exile.
And it held it. And just like you hold your baby at night, your little baby. And it was a beautiful thing to see. And I called Elon. I said, Elon, was that you? He said, yes, it was. I said, who else can do that? Can Russia do it? No. Can China do it? No. Can the United States do it other than you? No. Nobody can do that. I said, that's why I love you, Elon. That's